which is like okay, I guess. It's supposed to be one of those things where you pretend to hate the person you actually like type of thing. They never really bring it up ever again. Like what was even the point? There's also the episode of that. Actually one of my favorites because it's all about Max having to work with them. It's all about Max having to work with you guys or Safeguard having his butt taken for that. It was super fun to watch this mob being forced to work because they actually have some good chemistry. Max was also something that we could have got more episodes of that, which I definitely would have appreciated. The show has an extremely unique sense of style, not just in the art, but in the colors, the art style is like very different from most of the shows I've watched, to say no cameras. Those characters have very valid features within the outline. Their silhouettes really stand out to me. If I lined up the characters from the shows in any other Disney show that has a decade, it would be really easy to tell which one belonged to Counterfeit Cat. The color palette is really nice and relaxed. Most of the background colors are hazy blues, greens, and purples, and often have these weird abstract shapes in every space. Giving it a look unlike any other show I've seen. The soundtrack contains a wide variety of vaporwave and what I can only describe as retro tracks. The show feels very 80s and sneezy choice sometimes, and it wouldn't surprise me if the producers were growing up in that era. The end credits song is one of my favorites in cartoons. There's such a powerfully nostalgic feeling to music, which I think is connected to the memories of watching the show as a kid. The voice acting can be a bit more in the place of the quality. Some characters like Max being perfectly executed, really giving this character the extra self-care. And then there are characters like Randy and Antoine, which is honestly feel like they're creating a more epic show. All in all, there's really a really unique experience I'm glad this show had, even though I watched it much trending. Consider Bang Bang Culture versus Bang Bang Earth, Slime, King, and overall just unbelievable content lasting. That's all. My favorite episodes are often the ones where the action are fun or the ones where you get a little like Max versus Machine. In this episode, Minnie gets a new automatic cat feeder, to which Gark decides to give it life because Gark, I guess. After it refuses to feed Max after his brilliant manipulation, he chooses reports that it can feed him. The machine doesn't take this to it, and gives every single machine sentience but an uprising can feed to. Obviously, the setup and concept is better than a lot of the episodes. It's not the craziest or most creative, but what they managed to do with this is where it shines. They squeeze as many jokes, interactions, and plot points in the episode as they can. They have to disguise themselves as robots, leading to a lot of jokes, especially when Max uses this vacuum cleaner called Jeanette, which he's supposed to hate because he's a cat and cats hate vacuum. Machine Shark, being a silly idiot, decides that instead of escaping, he should become the next leader of the machines after the cat feeder dies and steals Max. The whole situation is fake. It's just two machines distracted by politics and the business, and just getting into a situation which is one of the scenarios that shows a national politics hanging their characters centered around internet cafes after the rap. And I do appreciate every chance we get to run it. It's not boring either, because I think Max's voice and inflections just make him a natural villain storyteller. Max is dark, but it isn't the cat as a rite of passage, but it's coming to an unfortunate conclusion. The world's about to end because they killed the hanging their cat and decide the world should take its place or just do something. And naturally, they exhaust the first option, Max by letting it do such basic until they reach the other two. Another funny ways
Note for
Max
anime
almost got
inspiration.
killed, and his reactions are just sell it every time.
It's only danger if you get hurt.
Eventually, after a long and grueling investigation, Max comes to the realization that since all the traps were pre-planned, the culprit would have to have known exactly where he would be at all time, and the only person who would know that is... I mentioned this when I spoke about Max's character before, but I genuinely think they could have ended up using some theater in the show, so that was a missed opportunity entirely. It was a very funny episode that took a classic trope and Staring Dog is my favorite episode so far, I would say. The episode starts off with this character, Dog. At the beginning, Max is like, up to this point so far, Max has always hated this character, constantly staring at him, almost like a Dark says him, he's always staring at him, just staring at him, always staring. After this, Max is too afraid to stay in the same houses, he decides to step in the car and go Max.
Yo, dingus! You can't have seen that happen to Wilma. Because if you had, you wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. That underneath that fur is a human hand! And if it points at you, your life ends instantly!
Meanwhile, Garp tries to figure out why the dog is so obsessed with Max. It's a strange motivation, but I'ma let it slide. Eventually, he comes to the realization that the dog stares at Max and looks a lot like his mom, which was a surprisingly attractive thing for a character that's not lying.
He looked just like his mom! The only reason he stares at you and not at me is that I guess he misses his mom!
This would probably be the first episode I'd show someone who's never watched the show. Actually, wait, that's the shit. My least favorite episode by far, though, has to be the big one. In this episode, Garp tries to tell Garp Morton and Max that a massive event that includes destroy the world is going to take place. But they just don't care. Because Max gets jealous that Garp goes to team with their help, even though it's completely logical since he's an alien as well. But no, Max just doesn't give a shit. He calls him a traitor. It shows literal regard for his stealing, super rude to him in his moments of need, and none of it is funny. The big problem is that Garp Morton is also being a selfish bitch, because he constantly wants to one-up Max just to beat the shit. Even though the past 25 episodes have shown that it's not hard to get that, so he shouldn't even care about any of that. If he acted as more of a will to Max than to understand the entire plot, then I feel the episode would have won. But Sadie keeps bitter, selfish parties, constantly ignoring someone who's supposed to be their friend, doesn't particularly make an enjoyable episode. If they didn't make this event Garp was talking about so important that it was destroyed, maybe I wouldn't have felt so bad. But still, I didn't laugh once during the episode. It's probably the most similar game that we completely missing over people. Thankfully, though, we don't fuck up anything like this. The rest of the episode honestly was good or okay, but nothing really special. But it was still just so fun to watch. My child favorite. While not perfect in any sense, it's a fun episodic show with a unique style and charm of its own. If you want a show similar to Gumball, Adventure Time, with a tinge of comedy and just a tiny bit of story feeling and continuity, I think this is the show for you. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Do you remember Counterfeit Cat, that weird TV show that nobody else talks about? Well, if not, you're in for a treat. Counterfeit Cat was a movie show developed by Martin and Steve. That name sounds familiar. Rick Wallace and Robin, Charlie Sheen, and Flush. It ran from May 12th, 2016 to January 22nd, 2017, which is less than a year, making it easily exclusive to the
Obviously, it's a place where people buy and sell stuff and watch videos.
Nah, that sounds about right. Counterfeit Cat is a very character-driven show. Most of the plots are driven by the conflict that is shared or between Max and Garg. I like to think of these two as Disney's versions of Gumball and Garg. Like, I hate to bring in a comparison like that so early, but I can't think of any other duo they remind me of. They fight over the dumbest things, one of them is naive and gullible with a cuteness factor, and the other is short-sighted and selfish. They can get into their disagreements, but at the end of the day, they always find a way to put their differences aside. Their friendship never felt fake or manufactured, although the later episodes do lose a bit of that touch, if you're not counting the finale. The first episode, Viral, is a perfect example of their dynamic in the beginning. Max and Garg want to make viral cat videos to get more attention from their own. Max keeps asking Garg to use powers and things to get honest with so we're just for very selfish reasons. Over time, Garg gets this lump on his head, which eventually manifests into this giant being and decides to kill him. Max realizes how much of a Eric he was being an apology and offered to sacrifice himself so Garg could kill her. The first few times they meet, she's honestly a very touching thing to see, but it can get boring. I definitely enjoy the episodes about Marlins just because of the possible. Instead of them fighting and
told Porky that so he'd give me the money for the yacht.
There are quite a few times where he's mean to Garg and makes him trip, like in the first board, where after they create a sentient program which they have to take care of. Max, who has never seen any point in willing to take care of him, decides that he should do all of this because he's the better character. Max is extremely possessive and pushes Garg to take care of something that really never want to take responsibility for. This is created out of spite because Garg can be better for a moment. But hear me out, that doesn't mean that he's an unlikable character. Yes, he's really hypocritical, but whether or not he's a cat, Despite the fact that it may seem that he does not give a fuck about how many characters in the show hate him, it does have an effect on his subconscious. Scarlet Garg, which is one of my personal favorite episodes, feels that he felt so bad about his actions towards others that he attempted to murder himself in an act of guilt. It's a shame that it never comes up again in the series, because this could have been something really interesting, but instead they play it for a joke at the end of the episode. This actually comes perfectly into play with the fact that he tries so many times to get into these really popular animals around the world, but can never fit. Being with the cool kids around the block is really important. However, his lack of remorse for his bad habits is ultimately why he can never leave, and that's why he's lucky he has a friend like Garg. Happens. He never stands up for himself in the slightest. He's weak, and not in an endearing way, even though he tries to stand up for himself, he just can't. I mean, weak in the sense that he doesn't even try. There's no progression when it comes to scale of life and starts to say no. That just never happens. It's not even justified by the fact that he never gets disappointed. Because even if he did, he knows that Max would never leave. He has said so many times that he is his only friend. Even without the powers, he would still be his friend. His naive nature and general helpfulness also get him into shit. However, I don't think he's necessarily They do actually feel like the best of friends, and the writers do a lot of showing rather than telling. There are lots of times where Garg pushes his limits for Max, and where Max sacrifices his selfish needs for Garg's safety. But you never get the sense that either of them is in the whole, because they are. It's just a very interesting relationship. It's very hard for me to explain it in words. Just watch the show, you'll see exactly what I mean.
Beat it, Squirt. I'm trying to catch some Z's.
What's something? It's where you have to get whoever's next to you while you're snakes.
Speaking of characters though, we have to mention the side characters. They add more layers to the show and more dynamics to Max's plot. To start light and go more in depth, two of my favorite side characters have to be Kid and Throckmorton. I don't know what it is, but Kid is just so funny to me. He's the funny side character out of the bunch, and shares some traits with Max. He's not afraid to get what he wants, and he also uses trickery. He's also probably the smartest character in the show, which makes him more of a menace to everyone. He's not like Max in the sense that he's a bad person, but he's definitely that kind of friendly snitch. He's also the biggest capper in the show. This man has told so many lies in the show, and it's no wonder every single time he gets what he wants. Throckmorton is my other favorite character, so albeit he does come with a few problems with it. To start with the positives, he has some really funny one-liners, and his voice is that typical black people in the cities type. Maybe Dracula's idea is basically that. However, he can also be really annoying sometimes. See, for a character like this, it would be best to make them arrogant, yet their smarts would be the redeeming quality. However, he isn't exactly as smart or as great as he always feels the need to say he is. Usually, he knows alien stuff that someone like Max wouldn't know, but other than that, he's not nothing special, but he acts like it all the damn time.
Shut the fuck up, nigga! For once!
The other side characters in the show don't have that much going for them that I can say about them, and end up just forming one big group of side characters, which is fine, because the show isn't about them, it's about these two. Their main function is to serve as Max's option most of the time, because they really don't like him on account of the there are a few interesting moments here and there with them. One of the better examples being the episode Key Man, which revealed that Max is a crush on Max, also Max's girlfriend. This is I guess it's supposed to be one of those things where you tend to hate the person you actually like technically, but you never really bring it up ever again, so like what is even the point? There's also that episode with that, which is actually one of my favorites, because it's all about Max having to work with them. It's all about Max having to work with these guys in order to save Garg from having his butt together. It's super fun to watch his ops being forced to work because they actually have some good chemistry. Max isn't such a dickhead, we could have done more episodes than these, which I definitely would have appreciated.
Looney, if you recall, I'm you, so...
The show has an extremely unique sense of style, not just in the art, but the colors, the music, and the voice acting too. The art style is very different from most Disney shows I've watched. This ain't no pal art. Most characters have very rounded features with thick outlines, making their silhouettes really stand out to each individual character, and in general just making the show a treat in terms of character design. If I lined up any character from this show against any other Disney show that has taken, it would be really easy to tell which one belonged to Comics and Cat. The color palette is really nice and relaxing. Most of the background color are hazy blues with greens and purples, and often have these weird abstract shapes whenever they're in space or another dimension, giving it a look unlike any other show I've seen. The soundtrack contains a wide variety of ways, what I can only describe as electro trap. The show feels very 80s in its music choice, and it wouldn't surprise me if the producers were growing up in that era. The end credits song is unironically one of my favorites in cartoons. It's such a powerfully nostalgic feeling, which I think is connected to the memories of watching the show. The voice acting can be a bit all over the place in terms of quality, with some characters like Max being perfectly executed, really giving his character that perfect interviews to the self-character. Then there are characters like Betty and Antoine, whose voices honestly feel like they're great, like it is more like the show. All in all, I just really love looking at and experiencing the live show, even though I watch type in. Consider buying me a coffee or subscribing to my Patreon. You'll get perks like getting my videos early, and all in all, it just helps with making content faster. That's all, goodbye. My favorite episodes are often ones where we get Max and Garg go get a fun adventure without a forced more, and more the ones where we get a better look at the whole of the character, or just a deeper look into a character, like Max versus Machine. In this episode, Diddy gets a new automatic pet, to which Garg decides to give it life, because Garg is, after he refuses to feed Max after his brilliant manipulation, he cheated sports that it used to be. She doesn't take this and gives every single machine sentient, starting up these two. Already the setup and concept is better than a lot of sort of escaping. He just becomes an ex-leader of the chief after the cat feeder dies and steals Max. The whole situation is just ridiculous. It's just two bros being distracted by politics and the bitches and just getting into a silly little situation, which is one of the scenarios the show is naturally good at depicting. Hanging Their Cat is centered around internet cat culture, but after Betty loses a rap battle,
I felt like this is rough because I can think of a lot of things around the world.
this is one of those moments where the show actually feels whole, and I do appreciate every chance we get to learn about it. It's not boring either, but I think Max is the recent reflection, just making it a natural storyteller. Max and Greg would visit the cat as a rite of passage, but come to an unfortunate conclusion. They think that the world's about to end and they kill them, and decide that one of them should take its place or just accept it. Naturally, they exhaust the first option before Max finally takes its replacement until they reach yet another stage. Another funny episode when you try this gross. The Scarlet Heart was always about to be over. Some people just tend to take it episode. And it's a love this episode. What the fuck do you know about Secret Wars? You know about Years of Water. Detective episodes are always fun, and this one is an exception. One, because of the way the film is in black and white like it is to these episodes, which already sets itself apart. Two, because while they could have gone for the complete tone shift into a much more serious episode, they chose not to, which is definitely the better option. There's no way that this show works in any serious situation. After an attempt on Max's life, Garth and him decide to go to the bottom of the pool one in bed. This may surprise you, but there's quite a few options. Honestly, the funniest part of the episode is just how many ways Max almost got killed, and his reactions just so every time. Eventually, after a long and grueling investigation, Max comes to the realization that since all the times have been planned, the property has to have known exactly what they were doing all the time, and the only person who know that is I mentioned this when I spoke about Max's character before, but I genuinely think he could have picked up something with this movie so that was a missed opportunity to find out. Even though a very funny episode into the classic chili where it's alone in the city, Staring Dog is my favorite episode so far in this segment. The episode starts off with this character, Staring Dog, appearing in Max's home. Up to this point so far, Max has always hated this dude for constantly staring at him, almost like a running gag. Garth tries to convince him that it's all in his head, and he just thinks that he's always staring at him. After this, Max is too afraid to stay in the same house as him, and decides to sleep in the park where Nelson and the kid are. They begin talking about the conspiracy theories as to what they think the Staring Dog is.
Yo, dingus! You can't have seen that happen to Wilma. Because if you had, you wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. That underneath that fur is a human hand! And if it points at you, your life ends instantly!
Meanwhile, Garth tries to figure out why the dog is so obsessed with Max and Molly. It's a strange revelation, but I'm a little silent. Eventually, he comes to the realization that the dog stares at Max and believes a lot of his mother, which is a surprisingly charming thing for a character that has no life.
You look just like his mom! The only reason he stares at you and not at me is that I guess he misses his mom!
Virtual Insanity is, in my opinion, the best episode in the whole show. The plot revolves around Max and Garth's his virtual reality and relative to multiple therapies. So, there's so many characters that in this episode. Each one has a reference to classical culture, just to create a village out of the Then it forces the two parties in the dark to participate in this dance that Flagstaff Mountain, which is the highlight of the episode. Seeing Max basically have to look at himself is funny as hell, and just the amount of jokes and interactions they got from essentially making 10 of the same character is a testament to the talent of the writers. Max gets jealous that Garg doesn't achieve, even though it's completely logical since he's a idiot. Right now, Max is the shit because he's saying he shows little regard for his abilities to the root of it. None of it is smart. The big problem is the Garg never possibly himself, because he constantly wants to walk on Max just to that even though the past 25 episodes have shown that it's not hard to be good at Max, so he shouldn't really care about anything. If he acted as more of a fool to Max, he would have understand back to Garg. And I feel that episode was more, but City 2, there's selfish mothers cultivate Max one of his it doesn't particularly make the realize. If they didn't make this event, Garg was talking about so maybe I would have felt so bad, but still, I didn't love that for one extreme episode. This is probably the most simple example of them completely missing the formula of the show. Thankfully though, they don't fuck up majorly like this again, with the rest of the episodes honestly just being good or okay, but nothing particularly special. But most of it was still pretty fun to watch, as it was one of my childhood favorites. Counterfeit Cat is a truly hidden gem in my opinion. While not perfect in any sense, it's a fun episodic show with a unique style and a top of its own. If you want a show similar to Gumball and Adventure Time, with a tinge of comedy and a tidy bit of storytelling and continuity, I think this is the show for you. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Take care. Do you remember Counterfeit Cat, that weird Disney XD show that nobody else talks about? If not, you're in for a treat. Counterfeit Cat was a Disney XD show developed by Artman Studios. That name sounds familiar. Think Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, plus it ran from May 12th, 2016 to January 22nd, 2017, which is less than a year. Disney XD's shortest running series. The show follows Max, a lazy and selfish in the house cat, and Garg, a blue alien disguised as a cat. After crash landing, he finds himself in a bed. Max is born, and from there the two find themselves in all sorts of crazy situations due to Garg's abilities and Max between the show goes all just unlocked it. I remember TV shows. I remember watching the show a lot, but I can never just watch them. We're too busy watching fucking the Teen Titans Go reception. So let's strap in and see if my childhood memories have been alive.
What's the internet?
Well, they say it can be a blessing or a curse, a magical place where every dream and every nightmare can come true. But mostly it's a place where people buy and sell stuff and watch video.
That sounds about right. Counterfeit Cat is a very character-driven show. Most of the plots are driven by the conflict of the shared or between the two plots. I like to think of these two as Disney's versions of Gumball and Garg. Like, I hate to make a comparison like that so early, but I can't think of any other duo they remember. They fight over the dumbest thing, and one of them is not even this fight. The other is short-sighted himself. They can get into their disagreements, but they always have a way to achieve the side. Their friendship never felt fake, although the later episodes were usually getting them touched, so not counting. The first episode, Viral, is a perfect example of the dynamic. Max and Garg want to make Viral Cat videos to get more attention from their owner. Max keeps asking Garg to use his powers for him to get honest with himself, or just for very selfish reasons. Over time, Garg gets this thing on his head, which eventually manifests into this giant enemy and decides to kill him. Max realizes how much of a jerk he was and apologizes, offering to sacrifice himself so Garg doesn't hurt her. The first few times they use his honesty and really touching him to see, but can get boring after a bit. I definitely enjoy the episodes a lot more when it's just the two of them with a common goal, instead of them fighting and coming back together. True, they may be complete opposites in how they think, but that doesn't mean they should always be at each other's throats. Max is a selfish, lazy, and short-sighted character who often doesn't appreciate the things Garg or others do for him. The best way to describe him is the feline version of Daffy Duck, and I'm talking Daffy Duck from the Looney Tunes show, the one who sold his friends full credit for a yacht.
I just told Porky that so he'd give me the money for the yacht.
There are quite a few times where he's mean to Garg and he contributed, like in Firstborn, where after they create a sentient furball, he's got to take care of it. Max was never seen at any point to be willing to take care of it, besides that he should be all of a sudden because he's the better parent. Garg acts extremely possessive and pushes Garg to the curb just to take care of something he really never wanted responsibility for. This was created out of spite because Garg can make better furballs than him. But hear me out, that doesn't mean that he's an unlikable character. Yes, he's rooting for criminals, but you gotta remember that he's a cat at the end of the day. If you know anything about this that Max is genuinely fucking creepy. This episode does an excellent job of making you scared of this version of him. He talks in barely understandable English, is constantly phoning with the mouth, not even remembering God is the best and only friend until he sees him in trouble, further strengthening the bond these two share. Despite the fact that it may seem that he does not give a fuck about how many characters in the show, it does have an effect on the subconscious. Scarlet God, which is one of my personal favorite episodes because he felt so bad about his actions towards others that in the sleep, he attempted to murder himself on acting. It's a shame that it never comes up again in the series. This could have been something really interesting, but instead he made for each of the nemesis actually comes perfectly into play when the villain tries so many times to get into his goal. A lot of them never forget. The kids around the block is really important. However, his lack of push for that happens ultimately why he can never win. And that's why he's lucky to have a friend like God. Mark is Max's best friend in the show with the kindest character himself. He cracks me up about the letters and ended up landing in Max's apartment since then to become his friend. To start with Mark, I really like his character. He types in one character as cute as possible with a red shield. His purple really covers him. Round finger, his big eyes just staring at you. He could give Darwin a run. His tentacles allow him to do many things and are often lifesavers in many situations. But more than that, they just give the animators so many unique animations they can do with them to convey different emotions or to just do different tasks. So yeah, his design is pretty cool, but what about him as a character? Well, I do have a few issues with him that I have to point out. The main problem is that he's too nice, or gullible if you will. Whenever Max asks him to do something, it always starts off small and manageable, but very quickly it can move up too much for him. But every time that happens, he never stands up for himself in the slightest. He's weak, and not in an endearing way, but even though he tries to stand up for himself, he just can't do it. I mean, weak in the sense that he doesn't try. There's no progression where he becomes the scared of Max and starts to say no to him. That just never happened. It's not even justified by the fact that he never was a disappointment, because even if he did, he knows that Max would never end. He has said so many times that he was his only friend, and that even without the powers, he would still be his friend. His naive nature and general purpose also put him into shit in a lot of the shows, often means it can feel that gets him in tough situations. However, I don't think he's necessarily a bad character, more so just annoying, how many times you could have got to see him up a bit. Looking past everything I just said, he's genuinely a kind-hearted, good-natured character, which is the perfect counterbalance to Max, who would literally do anything that's powers with him. All the flaws of Dark Knight are used to directly balance Max's complete double-minded. Yet it's this very thing that makes it more fun to watch most of the time, because the one thing the show does right with these two characters is that they don't always make this conflict the main focus of the show. More often than not, the two just go on your classic dynamic duo type of adventure, which is where the show truly shines in my opinion. Parts of the characters like Max being short-sighted and logical, or his general ignorance of how the Earth works are still important aspects of the dynamic, and I think they tone down low most of the time. They actually feel like the best of friends, and the writers do a lot of showing that you can tell. There are lots of times when Max and where Max sacrifices his selfish needs for Garth's safety, but you never get the sense that either of them is in the home, because they are. It's just a very interesting kind of relationship. It's very hard for me to explain it in words, because if you watch the show, you see exactly what I mean. Also the biggest capper in the world. This man has told so many lies in the show, and it's no wonder every single time he's in a scene he gets what he wants. Throckmorton is my other favorite character in the show, albeit he does come with a few problems of his own. To start with the positives, he has some really funny one-liners, and his voice is that typical black dude from the 70s type thing. Think Dracula from Billy and Mandy, he's basically that. However, he can also be really annoying sometimes. You see, for a character like this, it would be best to make them arrogant, yet their smarts would be their redeeming quality. However, he isn't exactly as smart or as weird as he always feels the need to say he is. True, he knows alien stuff that someone like Max would know, but other than that, he's not anything special. He acts like it all the damn time.
Shut the fuck up, nigga! For once!
The other side characters in the show don't have that much going for them that I can even say about which saved Garg from having his blood taken at the vet. It was super fun to watch his ops being forced to work with him, because they actually had some good chemistry in this. If Max wasn't such a dickhead, we could have got more episodes of these, which I definitely would have appreciated.
What are you doing here?
The show has an extremely unique sense of style, not just in the art, but the colors, the music, and the voice acting. The art style is very different from most TV shows I've watched. The same with talent. Most characters have very rounded features with big outlines, making their silhouettes really stand out to each individual character. And in general, just making the show appeal to the character. If I lined up any character from the show against any other Disney show, it would be really easy to tell which one belongs to Count Cat. The color palette is really nice and relaxed. Most of the background colors are hazy and blues and greens and purples, and often have these weird abstract shapes that are in space to another dimension, giving it a look unlike any other show I've seen. The soundtrack contains a wide variety of vaporwave and what I can only describe as electro-tragedy. The show feels very 80s in its music choices, and it wouldn't surprise me if the producers were doing that. The end credit song is one of my favorites in cartoons. There's such a powerfully nostalgic feel to it, which I think is connected to the memories of watching the show as a kid. The voice acting can be a bit all over the place in terms of quality, with some characters like Max being perfectly executed, really giving his character that extra jerkiness to his voice that sells his character. Then there are characters like Betty and Antoine, whose voices honestly feel like they're graded on my eardrums before I watch the show. All in all, I just really love looking at and experiencing the vibe the show has, even though I was describing. If you're enjoying the content on the channel, consider buying me a coffee or subscribe to my page to get perks like getting my videos early, and all in all just helps me make the content faster. That's all. My favorite episodes are often the ones where we get Max and Garg on a fun adventure without a forced moral at the end, or the ones where we get a better look at the world the characters are in, or just a deeper look into a character in general, like Max versus Machine. In this episode, Betty gets a new automatic pet, which Garg decides to give it life because Garg, after it refuses to feed Max after his behavior manipulation, he chooses to force that it can feed him. The machine doesn't take this treatment and gives every single machine sentient system upright. Honestly, the setup and concept is better than a lot of the episodes of the show. It's not the craziest or most creative, but what they managed to do with this is where it shines. They squeeze as many jokes, interactions, and plot points in the episode as they can, yet they disguise themselves as robots, leading to a lot of jokes, especially when Max switches back to his character, which he's supposed to hate because he's a cat, he has hate back to the machine. Sorry, he just is. Besides that, instead of escaping, and the next leader of the chief after the cat feeder dies, and steals Max's dick. The whole situation is just ridiculous. It's just two brothers being distracted by politics, the bitches, and just getting into a stupid situation. This is one of the scenarios that shows the naturally different thing. And yet the cat is centered around internet cat culture after Betty loses a rap battle.
Kind of pisses me off because I've been thinking a lot of things around the order.
This is one of those moments where the show actually feels like boring, and I do appreciate every judgment it's done. It's not boring either, because I think Max's voice inflection is just making an actual storytelling. Max and Garg are the reason the gallery of classes, but what is it the world's about to end because they kill Lang and the cat, and decide the world needs to take its place, or just accept it. Naturally, they exhaust the first option before Max finally takes its replacement, until they reach the other stage.
There's something wrong with this tree.
Another funny episode with an easy-to-digest premise. The Scarlet Mark was always bound to be one of my favorites, simply because it's a detective episode. I don't know what it is, I just love detective episodes. Like, what the fuck do you know about Squid Dog? What you know about Where's Wanda? Detective episodes are just always fun, and this one isn't an exception. One, because they break the show with everything being black and white, like most of these episodes, which already sets itself apart. Two, because while they could have gone for the tone shift into a much more serious episode, they chose not to, which is definitely the better option. There's no way that this show would take any serious situation. After an attempt on Max's life, Garg and him decide to go to the bottom of who would want it dead, and it's amazing may surprise you, but there's quite a few options. Honestly, the funniest part of the episode is just how many ways Max almost got killed, and his reaction is just silly every time. Eventually, after a long movie investigation, Max comes to the realization that since all the traps are pre-planned, the culprit would have to have known exactly where he would be all the time, and the only person who would know that is... I mentioned this when I spoke about Max's character before, but I genuinely think they could have ended up doing something with this leader in the show for some continuity, so that was a missed opportunity in my opinion. Still though, a very funny episode that took a classic trope and put its own unique spin on it. Staring Dog is my favorite episode so far in this season. The episode starts off with this character, Staring Dog, appearing in Max's role. Up to this point so far, Max has always hated this dude for constantly staring at him, almost like a running man. Dark tries to use him that is all in his head, and he just completely controls staring at him. After this, Max is too afraid to stay in the same house and decides to leave the park where Nelson would be killed. They begin talking about the conspiracy theories and what they think is Staring Dog is.
Yo, dingus! You can't have seen that happen to Wilma. Because if you had, you wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. That underneath that fur is a human head! And if it points at you, your life ends instantly!
Meanwhile, Garg tries to figure out why the dog is so obsessed with Max. It's a shame motivation for Garg, but I'm gonna let it slide, I guess. Eventually, he comes to the realization that the dog stares at Max for so long with his mother, which is a surprisingly fun thing for a character who has no body.
You look just like his mom! The only reason he stares at you and not at me is that I guess he misses his mom!
Virtual Insanity is, in my opinion, the best episode of the whole show. The plot revolves around Max and Garg traveling through this virtual reality video game, bouncing between alternate realities and different versions of themselves. There's so many unique character designs in this one episode alone. Each one either reflects the classic video game culture or just the creative redesign of the characters. Eddie forces the two parties of Max and Garg to participate in this capture the flag style contest, which is the highlight of the episode. Seeing Max basically after winning himself is funny as hell, and just the amount of jokes and interactions they got from essentially making a 10 of the same character is a testament to the talent of the writing. This would probably be the first episode I show someone who's never watched the show. Actually, that's the shit. My least favorite episode by far, though, has to be in this episode, Garg tries to tell Rock more to the Max that a massive event that could destroy the world is gonna take place. But he just don't get it, because Max gets jealous when Garg knows that he's evil, even though it's completely logical since he's an alien as well. But no, Max doesn't give a shit. He calls him a traitor, shows little regard for his failing, super into him in his moments of need. None of it is fun. The big problem is that Garg Morgan is also really because he constantly wants to one-up Max just to beat him. But even though the past 25 episodes have shown that it's not hard to get back, so he shouldn't even care about any of that. If he acted as more of a hero to Max, he should understand and kind to Garg, and I feel that it's okay. But seeing two bitter, selfish parties constantly ignoring someone who's supposed to be their friend doesn't particularly make for an enjoyable episode. If they didn't make this event Garg was talking about so important that it could destroy them, maybe I wouldn't have felt so bad. But still, I did not laugh once during this episode. This is probably the most simple example of them completely messing with the framing of the show. Thankfully though, they don't fuck up majorly like this again. The rest of the episode honestly just feels good or okay, but nothing particularly special. But most of it was still pretty fun to watch as one of my childhood favorites. sympathizes with Cat. After crash landing on Earth, he finds himself in the home of Betty, Max's owner, and from there the two find themselves in all sorts of crazy situations due to Garth's unique abilities and Max using them to his advantage. This show is one of those just unlocked a core memory type of shows. I remember watching the show a lot as a kid, but I could never really speak to my friends about it. We were too busy watching fucking Teen Titans Go or some shit. So, let's strap in and see if my childhood memories have been alive.
What's the internet?
Well, they say it can be a blessing or a curse, a magical place where every dream and every nightmare can come true. But mostly it's a place where people buy and sell stuff and watch videos.
Nah, that sounds about right. Counterfeit Cat is a very character-driven show. Most of the plots are driven by the conflict that is shared or between Max and Garth. I like to think of these two as Disney's versions of Gumball and Garth. Like, I hate to bring in a comparison like that so early, but I can't think of any other duo they combine. They fight over the dumbest things. One of them is not developed into the keenness factor, and the other is short-sighted himself. We can get into their disagreements, but at the end of the day, they always find a way to put it to the side. Their friendship never felt safe or manufactured, although the later episodes do display a touch from that comic. The first episode, Rival, is a perfect example of the dynamic. Max and Garth once made Rival Cat videos to get more attention to their own. Max keeps asking Garth to buy dollars when he's been honest with himself, just for very selfish reasons. Over time, Garth gets this lump on his head, which eventually manifests into this giant alien that decides to kill Garth. Max realizes how much of a jerk he was being and apologizes, offering to sacrifice himself so Garth can get her. The first few times they meet is honestly a really touching thing to see, but can get boring after a bit. I definitely enjoy the episodes a lot more when it's just the two of them with a common goal, instead of them fighting and coming back together. True, they may be complete opposites in how they feel, but that doesn't mean they should always get each other. Max is a selfish, lazy, and short-sighted character who often doesn't appreciate the things Garth or others appreciate. The best way to describe it is the feline version of Daffy Duck, and I'm talking Daffy Duck from the Looney Tunes show, the one who sold French credit in the eyes.
I just told Porky that so he'd give me the money for the eye.
There are quite a few times where they meet to Garth and Cruiser, like in the first part, where after the great accepted Verbal was taken to care of. Max was never seen any point in willing to take care of him, decides that he should do it all himself because he's the better parent. He acts extremely possessive and uses Garth to the core just to take care of some behaviors that he never wants responsibility for, which is created out of spite because Garth had a good Verbal. But hear me out, that doesn't mean that he's an unlikable parent unless he's doing the good. You gotta remember that he's a cat. If you know anything about these little fuckers, they can be all those things and more. No offense to any cat owners, but you gotta admit cats can be bitches sometimes. So when I see Max doing all of these things, I see it from the perspective of an animal just trying to do what they do. And aside from that, they actually give Max a couple of interesting characteristics that give him more than what's on the surface. Like in the episode Catnip, where it's revealed that he used to be addicted to catnip, but like really addicted. The minute he gets a sniff of the stuff, he goes completely insane. And the design of coked up Max is genuinely fucking creepy. This episode does an excellent job of making you scared in this version. He talks in barely understandable English, is constantly foaming at the mouth, and not even remembering Garth's best and only friend until he sees him in trouble, further strengthening the bond these two share. Despite the fact that it may seem that he does not give a fuck about how many characters in the show hate him, it does have an effect on the subconscious, described as Garth, which is one of my personal favorite episodes. It reveals that he felt so bad about his actions towards others, that he attempted to murder himself in an act of guilt. It's a shame that it never comes up again in the series. Something really interesting, but instead they play it for a at the end of the episode. This actually comes perfectly into play with the fact that he tries so many times to get into the popular animals around the world, but can never make it. Being in with your kids around the world is really important. However, it's lack of interest for his bad habits is ultimately why he can never be him, and that's why he's left here as a friend. On Earth and ended up landing in Max's apartment. Since then, the two have become best friends. To start with Garth, I really do like his character design. They really tried to make him look as cute as possible, and they did achieve that. His purple-blue color scheme and his round figure with those big eyes just staring at you. You could give Darwin a run. His tentacles allow him to do many things and are often lifesavers in many situations. But more than that, he just gave the animators so many unique animations with them to convey different emotions or to just do different tasks. So yeah, the design is pretty cool, but what about him as a character? Well, I do have a few issues here that I have to point out. The main problem is that he's too nice or gullible, if you will. Whenever Max asks him to do something, It always starts off small and manageable, very quickly it becomes too much, but every time that happens, he never stands up for himself and decides to be weak. Not in an accusing way, but in a tries to turn himself into special. I mean, he can associate with it with his try. There's no progression where he becomes scared of guys and starts to say no to them. That just never happened. It's not even justified by the fact that he never was disappointed, because even if he did, he knows that Max would never leave. He has said so many times that he is his only friend, and that even without the powers, he would still be his friend. Like nature and general qualities also get into shit on a lot of the show, often being used in the show that gets him into tough situations. However, I don't think he's necessarily a bad character, more so just annoying with how many times he could have got sick. Looking past everything I just said, he's genuinely a kind-hearted, good-natured, and humble character, which is the perfect counterbalance to Max, who would literally do anything in his power to get what he wants. All the flaws that Gark has in being too nice are used to directly balance Max's complete lack of empathy in the beginning. It's this very thing that makes the video fun to watch most of the time, because the one thing the show does right with these two characters is that they don't always make this conflict with the main focus of the show. More often than not, the two just go on your classic dynamic duo type of adventure, which is where the show truly shines in that. And parts of the character, like Max being short-sighted and Gark being the logical one, or his general ignorance of how the earth works, are still important aspects in the dynamic, and are thankfully toned down modes most of the time. They do actually feel like the best of friends, and the writers do a lot of showing that in the time. There are lots of times where Gark pushes the limits to Max, and where Max sacrifices his selfish needs for Gark's safety, but you never get the sense that either of them is in the home, because they are. It's just a very interesting homely relationship. It's very hard for me to explain in words. Just watch the show to see exactly what I mean. Probably the smartest character in the show, which makes him even more of a menace to everyone. He's not like Max in the sense that he's a bad person, but he's definitely that kind of switch. He is also the biggest captain in the world. This man has told so many lies in the show, and it's no wonder every single time he's in a scene he gets what he wants. Throckmorton is my other favorite character in the show, albeit he does come with a few problems. To start with the positives, he has some really funny one-liners, and his voice is that typical black dude from the 70s type. I think Dracula is really annoying. He's basically that. However, he can also be really annoying sometimes. You see, for a character like this, he really does to make him arrogant, but they're smart to be quote. However, he isn't exactly as smart as he was always need to say. Yeah, it's true, he knows really and stuff that some other guys don't know. But other than that, he's not really special, and yet he acts like him all the damn time.
Shut the fuck up, nigga! For once!
The other side characters on the show don't have that much going for them that I can really say about them, and end up just forming one big group of side characters, which is fine because the show isn't about them, it's about the pieces. Their main function is to serve as Max's ops for most of the time, because they really don't like running comedy. There are a few interesting moments here and there with however, one of the better examples being the episode of Fleabag, where it's revealed that Max has a crush on Ransom, the leader of the group who is also Max's #1 hater, which is like, okay, I guess. It's supposed to be one of those things where you pretend to hate the person you actually like type of thing, but they never really bring it up ever again, so like, what was even the point? There's also the episode The Vet, which is actually one of my favorites, because it's all about Max having to work with them. It's all about Max having to work with these guys in order to safeguard from having his blood taken every day. It was super fun to watch his ops being forced to work, because they actually have some good chemistry in this. If Max wasn't such a dickhead, we could have got more episodes like these, which I definitely would have appreciated.
What are you doing, Looney? Looney? Is that cool?
The show has an extremely unique sense of style, not just in the art, but the colors, the music, and the voice acting. The art style is very different from most TV shows I've watched. This ain't no cover shit. Most characters have very rounded features with thick outlines, making their silhouettes really stand out to each individual character. And in general, just making the show and shit into each character's life. If I lined up any character from this show against any other Disney show that has it would be really easy to tell which one belonged to what. The color palette is really nice and relaxed. Most of the background colors are hazy, greens, and purples, and often have these weird abstract shapes in space or other than giving it a look like any other show. can only describe as electro trap music. The show feels very 80s in its music choice sometimes, and it wouldn't surprise me if the producers were growing up in that era. The end credits song is unironically one of my favorites in cartoons. There's such a powerfully nostalgic feeling in music, which I think is connected to the memories of watching the show as a kid. The voice acting can be a bit all over the place in terms of quality, with some characters like Max being perfectly executed, really giving his character that extra jerkiness to his voice that sells his character. Then there are characters like Betty and Antoine, whose voices honestly feel like they're grating on my eardrums the more I watch the show. All in all, I just really love looking at and experiencing the vibe the show has, even though I watch shows try to keep it simple. Consider buying me a coffee first to my day. Hurts like getting back to the earth. I don't know just want to make the content faster. That's all. Goodbye. My favorite episodes are often ones where we get Max and Garth on a fun adventure without a first name, and or the ones where you get a broader look into the world of characters, or just a deeper look into a character in general, like Max versus Kashyyyk. In this episode, Diddy gets a new automatic cat feed, to which Garth decides to give it life. Garth, I guess. After it refuses to feed Max after his humiliating revelation, she gets more technically weak. Machine doesn't take this to him, and gives every single machine sentient to start an uprising. Already the setup and concept is better than a lot of the episodes in the show. It's not the craziest or most creative, but what they managed to do with this is where it shines. They squeeze as many jokes, interactions, and plot points in the episode as they can. They have to disguise themselves as robots, leading to a lot of jokes, especially when Max reaches this vacuum cleaner called Giselle, which he's supposed to hate because he's a cat, and cats hate vacuum machines. Garth, being investigated here, decides that instead of escaping, he should become the next leader of the machines after the cat feeder dies, and steals Max's The whole situation is just ridiculous. It's just two bros getting distracted by politics and the bitches and just getting into a silly little situation. It's one of the scenarios that was naturally going big. And in the cat is centered around internet cat culture. Where after Betty uses a rap battle,
I felt like this is real because I can think of a lot of things around the world.
And I do appreciate that each episode is about it's not boring either. I think Max is basically just making that actually fun story. Max and Garth with a physical cat as a rite of passage, coming to an unfortunate conclusion. They think that the world's about to end because they killed the egg in their cat, and decide that one of them should take its place or just accept fate. Naturally, they exhaust the first option before Max finally commits himself to replacing him, until they reach yet another strange conclusion. Another funny episode with an easy to digest premise. The Scarlet Mark was always bound to be one of my favorites, simply because it's a detective episode. I don't know what it is, I just love detective episodes. Like, what the fuck do you know about Squid and R? What you know about Where's Wanda? Detective episodes are just always fun, and this one isn't an exception. One, because they break the film of everything we're back and made like these episodes, which already set us off apart. Two, because while they could have gone through the complete tone shift into a much more serious episode, they chose not to. This is definitely a better option. There's no way that the show works in this serious situation. After that time got Max's life, Mark and him decided to get to the bottom of who would want to get, and this may surprise you, but there's quite a few options. Honestly, the funniest part of the episode is just how many ways Max almost got killed, and his reaction is just so every time. Eventually, after a long investigation, Max comes to the realization that since all the shots were pre-planned, the culprit would have to have known exactly where he would be at all times, and the only person who would know that is... When I spoke about Max's character before, but I genuinely think they could have ended up doing something with this later in the show for some continuity, so that was a missed opportunity in my opinion. Still though, a very funny episode that took a classic show and put its own unique spin on it. Staring Dog is my favorite episode so far in this segment. The episode starts off with this character, staring dog, appearing in Max's home. Up to this point so far, Max has always hated this dude for constantly staring at him, almost like a running gag. Dog tries to get mentioned that it's all in his head, and he just thinks that he's always staring at him. After this, Max is too afraid to stay in the same house as him, and decides to sneak into the park where Nelson and the kid are. They begin talking about the conspiracy theories as to what they think the staring dog is.
Yo, dingus! You can't have seen that happen to Wilma. Because if you had, you wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. That underneath that fur is a human head! And if it points at you, your life ends instantly!
Meanwhile, Garth is really right about this obsessed with Max. It's a strange motivation, but I'm not excited. Eventually, he comes to the realization that the dog stares at Max because he looks a lot like his mother, which is a surprisingly charming and heartwarming thing for a character that has no life.
You look just like his mom! The only reason he stares at you and not at me is that I guess he misses his mom!
Virtual Insanity is, in my opinion, the best episode of the whole. The plot revolves around Max and Garth traveling through this virtual reality video, bouncing between alternate realities with different versions of themselves. There are so many unique character designs in this episode, although each one either represents a classic video game culture or just a creative redesign of the character. Eddie forces the two parties of Max and Garth to participate in this capture the flag style contest, which is the highlight of the episode. Seeing Max victory after hurting himself is funny as hell, and just the amount of jokes and interactions that Garth essentially made with 10 of the same character is a testament to the talent of the writer. This would probably be the first episode I'd show someone who's never watched the show. Actually, it's the most. My least favorite episode by far, though, has to be the big one. In this episode, Garth tries to tell Buck once to Max that a massive event that will destroy the world is going to take place, but he just doesn't care. Because Max gets jealous that Garth goes to the team, even though it's completely logical since he's an alien as well. But no, Max just doesn't give a shit. He calls him a traitor. It shows little regard for his feelings, super rude to him in his moments of need, and none of it is funny. The big problem is that Throckmorton is also being a selfish douche, because he constantly wants to one-up Max just to prove he's better, even though the past 25 episodes have shown that it's not hard to be better than Max, so he shouldn't even care about any of that. If he acted as more of a foil to Max and super understanding and kind to Garth, then I feel the episode would have worked. But seeing two bitter, selfish parties constantly ignoring someone who's supposed to be their friend doesn't particularly make for an enjoyable episode. If they didn't make this event Garth is talking about so important that he destroyed them, maybe I wouldn't have felt so bad. But still, I did not laugh once during this episode. This is probably the most simple example of them completely messing with the formula of the show. Thankfully though, they don't fuck up majorly like this again. The rest of the episode was honestly just good or okay, but nothing particularly special. But most of it was still pretty fun to watch, as it was one of my childhood favorites. Counterfeit Cat is a truly hidden gem. While not perfectly in any sense, it's a fun, episodic show with a unique style and a charm of its own. If you want a show similar to Gumball or Adventure Time with a tinge of comedy and just a tiny bit of storytelling and continuity, I think this is a show for you. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Take care. If you really love the Counterfeit Cat, that weird TV show that nobody else talks about, well, it's not weird for a change. Counterfeit Cat was a Disney TV show developed by Aardman Studio. If that name sounds familiar, think Wallace and Gromit, Shaun the Sheep, and Fluster. It ran from May 12, 2016 to January 22nd, 2017, which is less than a year, making it Disney XD's shortest running series. The show follows Max, a lazy and selfish little house cat, and Garth, a blue alien disguised as a cat. After crash landing on Earth, he finds himself in the home of Max's own, and from there the two find themselves in all sorts of crazy situations due to Garth's unique abilities and Max's abilities. And this show is one of those, oh dude, you just unlocked a more memory type of shows. I remember watching the show a lot as a kid, but I could never really speak to my friends about it. We were too busy watching fucking teen type videos. So, let's strap in and see if my childhood memories have been alive.
What's the internet?
Well, they say it could be a blessing or a curse, a magical place where every dream and every nightmare can come true. And mostly it's a place where people buy and sell stuff and watch video.
Nah, that sounds about right. Counterfeit Cat is a very character-driven show. Most of the plots are driven by the conflict that is shared or between Max and Garth. I like to think of these two as Disney's versions of Gumball. Like, I hate to bring in a comparison like that so early, but I can't think of any other movie. They fight over the economic other is short-sighted and selfish. They can get into their disagreements, but at the end of the day, they always find a way to put their differences aside. Their friendship never felt fake or manufactured, although the later episodes do lose a bit of that touch, if we're not counting the finale. The first episode, Go Viral, is a perfect example of the dynamic in the beginning. Max and Garg want to make viral cat videos to get more attention from their owner. Max keeps asking Garg to use his powers for things he could honestly do, so or just for very selfish reasons. Over time, Garg gets this lump on his head, which eventually manifests into this giant alien that decides to kill Garg. Max realizes how much of a jerk he was being and apologizes, offering to sacrifice himself so Garg doesn't get hurt. The first few times they meet, it's honestly a really touching thing to see, but can get boring after a bit. I definitely enjoy the episodes about more than just the two of them with a common goal, instead of them fighting and coming back together. They may be complete opposites in how they think, but that doesn't mean they should always be at each other's throats. Max is a selfish, lazy, and short-sighted character who often doesn't appreciate things Garg or others do for him. The best way to describe it is the feline version of Daffy Duck, and I'm talking Daffy Duck from the Looney Tunes show, the one who sold his friend's cool credit card.
I just told Porky that so he'd give me the money for the yacht.
Quite a few times we refer to Garg in a character, like in First War, after they create a sentient furry which they can take care of. Max, who has never seen anything to be willing to take care of, decides that he should do it instead of because he's the better head of the Garg. He acts extremely possessive and pushes Garg to do her just to take care of something he originally never wanted responsibility for, which was created out of spite because Garg can make better furballs. But hear me out, that doesn't mean that he's an unlikable character. Yes, he's rude and hypocritical, but you gotta remember that he's a cat at the end of the day. If you know anything about these little fuckers, is that they can be all those things and more. No offense to any cat owners, you gotta admit, cats can be bitches sometimes. So when I see Max doing all of these things, I see it from the perspective of an animal just trying to do what they do. And aside from that, they actually give Max a couple of interesting characteristics. They give him more than what's on the surface, like in the episode Catnip, where it's revealed that he used to be addicted to catnip, but like really addicted. The minute he gets a sniff of the stuff, he goes insane. The design of Coco and Max is genuinely fucking creepy. This episode doesn't explain well enough when he's scared of his version. He talks in barely understandable English, he's constantly foaming at the mouth, and not even remembering Garg, that's the whole thread, until the season comes up, where they're strengthening the bondage to shit. Despite the fact that Mace Meeting does not give a fuck about how many characters in the show hate him, it does have an effect on the subconscious, Scarlet Garg, which is one of my personal favorite episodes. Because they felt so bad about his actions towards others, they attempted to murder himself in an act. It's a shame that it never comes up again in the series, because this could have been something really interesting, but instead they play it for a joke at the end of the episode. This actually comes perfectly into play with the franchise. So many times they get into this group of popular animals around the block, but can never fit in. Being in with the cool kids around the block is really important to him. However, his lack of remorse for his bad habits is ultimately why he can never be him, and that's why he's lucky he has a friend like Garg. Garg is Max's best and only friend in the show, and the kindest character by far. He crash landed on Earth and ended up landing in Max's apartment, and since then the two have become best friends. To start with Garg, I really do like his character design. They really tried to make him look as cute as possible, and they did achieve that. His purple-blue color scheme and his round finger with those big eyes just staring at him, he could give Darwin a run to his mouth. His tentacles allow him to do many things and are often life-saving in many situations. But more than that, they just give the animators so many unique animations they can do with them to convey different emotions or to just do different tasks. So yeah, his design is pretty cool, but what about him as a character? Well, I do have a few issues with him that I have to point out. The main problem is that he's too nice, gullible. Whenever Max asks him to do something, it always starts off small and manageable. Very quickly it can become too much for him. Every time that happens, he never stands up for himself in the slightest. Weak, and not even hearing when the shots that put himself into spit. I mean, weak in the sense that he doesn't even try. There's no progression where he becomes less scared of Max and starts to say that just never happened. It's not even justified by the fact that he never lets him disappoint. Because he never forgive. He knows that Max will never need him. He has said so many times that he was his only friend, and that even without the powers, he would still be his friend. His naive nature and general gullibility also get him into shit on a lot of the shows, while often being his Achilles heel that gets him into tough situations. However, I don't think he's necessarily a bad character, more so just alone. It's how many times you could have got to see him grow up a little bit. Looking past everything I just said, though, he's genuinely a kind-hearted, good-natured, and humble character, which is the perfect counterbalance to Max, who would literally do anything in his power to get what he wants. All the flaws that Garg has in being too nice are used to directly balance Max's empathy in the beginning. It's this very thing that because the one thing the show does right is the characters, so they didn't always make this conflict more often than not, the two just go on your classic dynamic duos out of the bench, which is where the show truly shines in my opinion. Parts of the character, like Max being short-sighted and part being the logical one, or his general ignorance of all of this, are still important aspects of the dynamic. And I think they tone down loads most of the time. They do actually feel like the best of friends, and the writers do a lot of show editing. There are lots of times where Bart pushes his limits to Max, and where Max sacrifices his selfish needs for Bart's safety. But you never get the sense that either of them isn't wrong, because they are. It's just a very interesting interpretation. It's very hard for me to explain it in words. Just watch the show to see exactly what I mean.
Beat it, Squirt. I'm trying to catch some Z's.
What's a subnick?
It's where you have to give whoever's next to you all your snacks.
Speaking of characters though, we have to mention the side characters. They add more layers to the show and more dynamics to Max and Doc. To start light and go more in depth, two of my favorite side characters have to be the Kid and Throckmorton. I don't know what it is, but the Kid is just so funny to me. He's the funny side character out of the bunch, but shares some traits with Max. He's not afraid to get what he wants and often uses trickery to do it. He's also probably the smartest character in the show, which makes him even more of a menace to everyone. He's not like Max in the sense that he's a bad person, but he's definitely that kind of friend who'd snitch. He is also the biggest capper in the world. This man has told so many lies in the show, and it's no wonder every single time he's in the scene he gets what he wants. Throckmorton is my other favorite character in the show, albeit he does come with a few problems of his own. To start with the positives, he has some really funny one-liners, and his voice is that typical black man from the 70s type thing. Think Dracula from Lady and Mandy, he's basically that. However, he can also be really annoying sometimes. You see, for a character like this, it would be less to make them arrogant, yet their smarts would be their redeeming quality. However, he isn't exactly as smart or as great as he always feels the need to say. It's true, he knows alien stuff that someone like Max would know, but other than that, he's not anything special, and he acts like him all the damn time.
Shut the fuck up, nigga! For once!
The other side characters in the show don't have that much going for them that I can really say about them, and end up just forming one big group of side characters, which is fine because the show isn't about them, it's about these two. Their main function is to serve as Max's ops for most of the time, because they really don't like him on account of the... There are a few interesting moments here and there with them. One of the better examples being the episode Fleabag, where it's revealed that Max is a crush on Ramsey, the leader of the group, who's also Max's number one hate, which is, like, okay, I guess. It's supposed to be one of those things where you pretend to hate the person you actually like type of thing, but they never really bring it up ever again, so like, what is the point? There's also the episode The Vet, which is actually one of my favorites, because it's all about Max having to work with them. It's all about Max having to work with these guys in order to safeguard them having his blood taken in the vet. It was super fun to watch his ops being forced to work with them, because they actually have some good chemistry. If Max wasn't such a dickhead, we could have got more episodes like these, which I definitely would have appreciated. The show has an extremely unique sense of style, not just in the art, but the colors, the music, and the voice acting too. The art style is very different from most Disney shows I've watched, to say no CalArts. Most characters have very rounded features with big outlines. You see their silhouettes really stand out to each individual character, and in general just making the show a treat to certain characters. If I lined up any character from this show against any other Disney show in the past decade, it would be really easy to tell which one belonged to Counterfeit Cat. The color palette is really nice and relaxing. Most of the background colors are hazy blues with greens and purples, and often have these weird abstract shapes whenever they're in space or another dimension, giving it a look unlike any other show I've seen. The soundtrack contains a wide variety of vaporwave and what I can only describe as electro trap music. The show feels very 80s in its music choice sometimes, and it wouldn't surprise me if the producers were growing up in that era. The end credits song is unironically one of my favorites in cartoons. There's such a powerfully nostalgic feeling in music, which I think is connected to the memories of watching the show as a kid. The voice acting can be a bit all over the place in terms of quality, with some characters like Max being perfectly executed, really giving this character that extra jerkiness to his voice that sells his character. Then there are characters like Betty and Antoine, whose voices honestly feel like they're grating on my eardrums the more I watch the show. All in all, I just really love looking at and experiencing the vibe the show has, even though I was shit at describing. If you're enjoying the content on the channel, consider buying me a coffee.